What if the reason you haven't been consistent isn't because you're lazy, but because you've been doing it wrong this whole time? You've probably told yourself, I just need to be more disciplined. Maybe you've tried workouts that felt too long, too exhausting, or simply didn't fit your day. And over time, something subtle happens. You stop trusting your ability to stay consistent. Not because you don't care about your health, but because the system you're following doesn't match your life anymore. But here's where it shifts. What if you didn't need a workout at all? What if just a few minutes, several times a day, could actually do more for your mobility, your strength after 50, and your long-term independence than a full session at the gym? It sounds almost too simple, but once you understand how your body really responds to movement, especially as you age, you'll start seeing longevity and health span in a completely different way. Most people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because they can't sustain it. And if you're honest with yourself, you've probably felt this. You start motivated, maybe even excited, thinking, this time I'll stick with it. But a few days go by, life gets busy, your energy drops, and suddenly the plan doesn't fit anymore. It's not lack of discipline. It's a mismatch between your life and the way you're trying to take care of your body. Here's the part most people don't say out loud. After 50, your priorities shift. Your schedule is fuller, your recovery isn't the same, and your body doesn't respond well to being pushed the way it used to. So when someone tells you to train hard 5 times a week, your body quietly resists. Not because it's weak, but because it's asking for a different strategy. That's where many people start losing consistency and eventually confidence. And then something subtle happens. You begin to associate exercise with effort, discomfort, even frustration. It becomes something you should do instead of something that fits naturally into your life. That's one of the biggest hidden threats to longevity and health span, because when movement feels like a burden, it slowly disappears from your routine. And without consistent movement, mobility declines. Strength after 50 becomes harder to maintain, and independence starts to feel less certain. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is the shift most people never make. The problem isn't you. It's the model you've been following. You've been taught to think in terms of workouts, when your body, especially as you age, responds better to something else entirely. Something simpler, something more frequent. And once you start to see that clearly, a new question begins to form. What if the issue isn't how hard you train, but how your movement is distributed throughout the day? As you age, your body doesn't just need exercise, it needs better distribution of movement. And this is where most people get stuck without realizing it. They still think in terms of sessions, 1 hour here, maybe 3 times a week, and then long periods of inactivity in between. On paper, that sounds productive, but in real life, especially for healthy aging, it creates gaps that your body doesn't respond well to. Think about what happens during those long inactive periods. You sit, you stay still. Your muscles aren't being activated. Your circulation slows down, your joints stiffen. Then suddenly, you ask your body to perform in a single session, expecting it to compensate for hours of inactivity. It's a bit like watering a plant once a week and wondering why it doesn't thrive. The body doesn't work in bursts. It works through consistency. Now, here's something that often gets overlooked. Recovery after 50 isn't just slower, it's more sensitive. Pushing too hard in a single workout can leave you feeling drained instead of energized. And when that happens, the next day becomes a rest day, and then another, and before you know it, the cycle of inconsistency returns. This is where many people confuse effort with progress. More intensity doesn't always mean better results, especially when the goal is longevity and quality of life. And if you step back and look at it differently, the real issue isn't that workouts are bad. It's that they're incomplete. They don't reflect how your body actually functions throughout the day. Your body is designed to move often, not occasionally. And once you begin to understand that, a different approach starts to make more sense. One that doesn't rely on motivation, doesn't depend on long sessions, and fits naturally into your routine. Which leads to a simple but powerful idea. What if movement didn't have to be a workout at all? Movement snacks are exactly what they sound like. Small, simple bursts of movement spread throughout your day. Not a full workout, not a structured session. Just short moments where you activate your body for 2 to 5 minutes. No special clothes, no equipment, no pressure. And surprisingly, this is one of the most practical ways to support longevity, mobility, and healthy aging without disrupting your routine. Now, here's where people usually pause and think, that sounds too simple to work. And that's exactly the point. The body doesn't always need complexity. It needs consistency. A few sit-to-stands before breakfast, a couple of wall push-ups during the day, a short walk around the house after sitting for too long. These are not impressive movements, but they are incredibly effective for maintaining functional fitness and protecting your independence over time. What makes movement snacks different is how they fit into real life. You're not carving out time. You're inserting movement into moments that already exist. Waiting for coffee? Move. Watching TV? Move. Just stood up? Move a little more. It becomes part of your rhythm, not an interruption. And that subtle shift is what makes it sustainable, especially for those who feel like traditional exercise no longer fits their energy or lifestyle. And here's the deeper insight. This approach respects how your body actually works as you age. It reduces joint stress, supports circulation, and keeps your system awake throughout the day. It's a form of light, practical biohacking, grounded in evidence-based health, not hype. And once you start seeing movement this way, a new curiosity emerges. Why does something so small actually make such a big difference? Your body responds better to frequent signals than occasional effort. That might sound simple, but it changes everything once you understand it. Your body isn't waiting for a perfect workout. It's constantly adapting to what you do throughout the day. Every time you move, even briefly, you send a signal. Stay active, stay capable, stay ready. And over time, those signals shape your health span far more than a few isolated sessions. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. When you move more often, your muscles are activated regularly. Your circulation improves, and your joints stay lubricated. It's like keeping a system online instead of letting it shut down and restart later. This is especially important for mobility and balance, because those systems depend on frequent input, not occasional effort. Small movements, repeated consistently, create stability in a way intense workouts often can't. But here's the part nobody talks about, and it's where things get even more interesting. Movement snacks also affect your metabolism. Short bursts of activity throughout the day help regulate blood sugar, reduce long periods of inactivity, and keep your energy levels more stable. This isn't just about exercise anymore. It's about how your body functions hour by hour. That's why this approach aligns so well with evidence-based health and long-term longevity strategies. And if you take a step back, it starts to make sense in a very practical way. Your body doesn't care if the movement is impressive. It cares if it's consistent. It doesn't reward intensity as much as it rewards frequency. And once you see that clearly, another question naturally comes up. If something this simple works so well, what are the exact movements you should be doing? Here are 3 simple movement snacks you can start today. And the key word here is simple, not because it's easy to say, but because it's easy to do. The kind of movement that doesn't require preparation, motivation, or negotiation with yourself. This is where functional fitness becomes real. Not in perfect conditions, but in the middle of your actual life. Let's start with something almost too basic. Sit to stand. You sit down, then stand up, slowly with control. Do that 5 to 10 times. That's it. It may not look impressive, but it directly supports strength after 50, improves mobility, and reinforces one of the most important movements for independence. If you want to make it slightly more engaging, try doing it without using your hands. Your body will immediately understand the difference. Now, take a wall nearby and try wall push-ups. Hands against the wall, body slightly inclined, controlled push and return. It's gentle on the joints, safe for shoulders, and incredibly effective for maintaining upper body strength. You can do this while waiting for something. Coffee, microwave, even during a short break. That's the idea. Movement that fits your life, not the other way around. And then there's one of the most underrated forms of movement, carrying something. A bag, a few books, groceries, anything with a bit of weight. Walk across the room, maintain posture, stay controlled. This builds functional strength in a way machines never quite replicate. And as simple as it sounds, it directly supports your balance, coordination, and long-term quality of life. Which naturally leads to the next question. How do you make this stick without relying on motivation? The key isn't intensity, it's when you do it. And this is where everything starts to click, because most people try to build new habits by adding more effort into their day. But after 50, that rarely works. Your routine is already full. Your energy is more selective. So instead of asking, how do I do more? The better question becomes, where does this already fit? Think about moments that already exist in your day. You finish a meal. What if that becomes your signal to move for 2 minutes? You're about to sit down. What if you do 5 sit-to-stands first? You're watching TV. What if every commercial break becomes a small movement window? These aren't big changes, but they are consistent triggers. And consistency is what builds real longevity and health span. Here's something subtle but powerful. When movement becomes attached to something you already do, it stops depending on motivation. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to plan. It just happens. That's how habits are built quietly without resistance. And over time, this creates a rhythm where movement becomes part of your identity, not something you have to think about. And if you follow this approach, something interesting happens. You stop seeing movement as a task and start experiencing it as a natural part of your day. That's when functional fitness becomes sustainable. That's when mobility improves without forcing it. That's when independence is protected without dramatic effort. And once you realize how simple this can be, everything you believed about exercise begins to shift. You don't need to train harder, you need to move more often. And if that idea feels almost too simple, that's because for years you've been told the opposite. More effort, more time, more intensity. But your body, especially when the goal is healthy aging and longevity, doesn't respond best to extremes. It responds to consistency, to frequency, to small signals repeated over time. So let me ask you something. What's more realistic for you right now? Forcing yourself into long workouts you struggle to maintain, or adding a few minutes of movement into moments that already exist in your day? Because this isn't just about exercise anymore. It's about protecting your mobility, your balance, your independence, your quality of life. If this shifted the way you think about movement, then don't stop here. Because understanding how to move is one thing, but understanding how your body responds in real-life situations is what truly protects you. That's exactly why you should watch this next video. This is why you lose balance. It connects directly to what we talked about today and shows you what actually happens when your body needs to react. And if you want to keep learning how to age better with clarity and confidence, subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll keep this simple, practical, and grounded in evidence-based health. Because at the end of the day, your goal isn't youth. It's independence.